I ended up in foster care when I was 2 years old. There was 13 reports of it in my biological home. The first place that my siblings and I were placed in was a family foster care placement, and it was with my uncle. And then his new wife, they duct taped us to chairs. They would force feed us water until we urinated on ourselves. And that punishment was only because I drank my juice before I ate my dinner. And we were removed from there because it came out that he was abusing my older sister. We were there for 3 years. The first home that I experienced that was pretty bad, we weren't allowed to leave our bedrooms unless the parents were awake, and they wouldn't wake up until sometimes 11 o'clock in the morning. One morning, it was maybe like 10 o'clock in the morning. I was really hungry, and their daughter had left her room. So I left my room and got a piece of bread. I remember this person coming up behind me, and he was a larger man, and his belly was out, and he was only in his underwear. And he pressed me against the counter. I was 6. My back was against the counter, and I just remember it hurting really bad. And he told me that I didn't pay any bills in their home, and I wasn't allowed to eat their food without permission. They had very harsh punishments. They weren't hitting us, but I would have to stand in the basement on one leg with my hands in the air for hours. And if they would come in and I had like switched legs or something, then they would scream at me really close to my face. And as a kid, that's really terrifying. They would have us write sentences. It would be like thousands and thousands, and that's all you were allowed to do all day long. If your hands hurt, if you needed water, you're not allowed to stop and take a break. If they saw you stop writing, they would scream at you. The next home that was particularly bad, they would pick us up by our hair. We had motion sensors on the outside of our doors. So if I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, this alarm would go off outside my door so that they knew we were out of our rooms. All the food was locked in the garage. I remember them just smashing my sister's head into the wall sometimes. They would get in these huge arguments, like the adults with the children. And then all of a sudden that argument would explode into something. And then next thing he would be on top of my sister or on top of me. It was very volatile. It could be for anything, like not eating your green beans. My brother got knocked out of his chair for not saying his prayers right at dinner time. I had run away from the home 2, maybe 3 times, and we still stayed in this house. My sister was by the adoptive dad. They removed him from the home and they had us stay there. He kept violating the no contact order, kept showing up to the home when he wasn't supposed to. We were finally removed from that home, and that's when my siblings and I were separated from each other. My brother and my sister went to their respective foster homes, and they ended up aging out of foster care. My oldest sister got separated from us first, and later on she ended up being trafficked from her home when she was 11. And yeah, I just remember finding out about her trafficking, and my world came crashing in a little bit, realizing that I had been lied to for so long. There's actually a documentary made about her. It's called Playground, and it's about her trafficking and a little bit about our foster care story in it as well. I went to foster homes, group homes, until I finally aged out at 18, and I became homeless after that. I had nowhere to go. So I think for a while I stayed on people's couches. I stayed on people's futons in their living room, people's couches. Eventually it came to the point where like I was sleeping outside, and I eventually joined the military. I wanted to get on my feet, and I wanted to get out of the situation that I was in. And I realized that I was in a very critical point in my life. My life can go one of 2 ways if I don't do something right now. I would say the military provided me with a sense of stability. So in my foster homes, I didn't know if I was going to eat. I didn't know if I was going to be hit or violated in some way. Foster parents, I would say for most of them, they were doing it for money. They were doing it so that they could get paid. And they were very controlling. I'm big, you're small, you have to listen to me kind of mentality or mindset. And very like authoritarian parenting. I wouldn't subject my daughter to any of the things that people did to me in foster care. And it really breaks my heart watching her do these things and seeing so much of myself in her and wondering, how could somebody hurt this little child? It's healing, but it hurts at the same time. The things I experienced in foster care will definitely affect me for the rest of my life. And I have the choice to determine how they're going to affect me or how much they're going to affect me. And everybody thinks of healing as like a goal, or you're going to be healed someday. And that's not true. Healing is a never ending journey. So I'm constantly going to be healing. I'm always going to be working on myself and trying to make myself better. These are the most vulnerable children we have in society. Somebody's telling you, I can give you money, I can give you a phone, I can buy you new clothes. And I read something the other day. She had experienced trafficking. And she said that foster care set her up perfectly for being trafficked because she was already used to doing things for people so that they would take care of her and provide for her. She was already used to packing up all of her stuff and moving at a moment's notice and doing exactly what somebody told her to do. We have youth that are homeless or struggling with homelessness. And if somebody says, hey, I'm here to save you, I'm here to help you, you just have to do these things for me, it happens really easily. And a lot of times they don't understand the seriousness of the situation or the danger that they're in until it's too late, until they're already wrapped up in it and they can't get out. Trafficking is super prevalent within the foster care community. The reason that foster youth are so easily trafficked is because there's not very many people who are looking for them. Until 2014, the state was not required to report these children missing to local law enforcement. All the foster parent had to do is say, this child ran away. And so after 2014, they're now required to report them to law enforcement and make the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children makes the posters. But due to confidentiality issues, they can't put a photo up. I would say the system is broken because we're creating very negative outcomes for all the youth that go through it. We are seeing so many negative experiences, and there's not a lot being done to fix it. There's a lot of people speaking up. There's a lot of people trying to make these changes, but the changes just aren't happening system-wide. The first step of change is awareness. So the first way to make a big change is to get people aware of it. A lot of people don't even know what foster care is. It's important that we have people who went through these experiences in places where choices about foster care are being made. So we need people who came from foster care, caseworkers, foster parents, and I would say most importantly, we need former foster youth and current foster youth in these spaces, sharing their opinions, sharing their stories, and that's how we're going to create big changes, because representation matters.